start.
Sure.
He's going to do it. Here's got it.
I think it's on. It just turned green.
I did. You good? Okay, sorry.
First, Hurricane Matthew is a Category 3 hurricane and deadly. At least 17 people have already been killed by this major hurricane. 17 people have already died. We do not want to see another loss of life, and protecting life is our #1 priority. If Matthew directly impacts Florida, there will be massive destruction that we haven't seen in years. Again, this is a deadly storm approaching our state, and our #1 priority is an individual's life. We are preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and not taking any chances. I just spoke with the National Hurricane Center in all 67 Florida counties. I've been in contact with sheriffs, mayors, utility companies, the Red Cross, emergency management and officials across our state. Here's what we now know. Hurricane Matthew made landfall on Cuba last night and is headed north toward the Bahamas. Matthew has maximum sustained winds of 120 miles per hour. It is still a slow-moving storm and continues to move northwest. It is expected to strengthen as it approaches Florida. But we should not focus on the exact track. The eye of the storm continues to move closer to our state. There are now some forecasts that put a direct hit on Florida. Based on the current forecast, the center of the storm will be close to Cape Canaveral on Friday morning. Regardless if there is a direct hit or not, the impacts will be devastating. I cannot emphasize it enough that everyone in our state must prepare now for a direct hit. Just remember, with the storm going up along our coast, a small deviation from this track could mean a catastrophic storm along our east coast. We have to prepare for a direct hit. We will likely start to see the impacts on our state within the next 24 hours and last through the weekend. This is a slow-moving storm. That means we have less than 24 hours left to prepare, evacuate, and shelter. Having a plan in place could mean the difference between life and death when it comes to a storm of this magnitude. Right now, we expect to see impacts all along Florida's east coast, ranging from the Upper Keys to Nassau County. We are still focused on the I-95 corridor. Impacts of Hurricane Matthew could be heavy rain. Forecasts project 4 to 7 inches from the Upper Keys northward to the coastal east central Florida. It could be up to 10 inches in some areas. And let's remember, when you get a band, as we've done in prior storms, you get even more rain than that. Storm surge. Heights are expected to be above ground. Forecasts project 3 to 6 feet from North Palm Beach to the Flagler-Volusia County line. The surge can be deadly. Please do not risk by going out surfing during the storm. Again, this can kill you. We're going to see rip currents. We're going to see beach erosion. We're going to see tornadoes and hurricane force winds. Even if the storm remains offshore, tropical storm force winds will extend into our state. As of now, wind strength is our biggest concern, regardless if the storm directly hits us. The probability of high wind speeds has continued to increase as the forecast develops. The probability for hurricane strength winds is increasing. But again, all this can quickly change and become much worse. These are all projections, and we must prepare for the worst, a direct hit on our state. Hurricane warnings are in effect for north of Golden Beach in Miami-Dade County to Sebastian Inlet in Brevard County and Lake Okeechobee. There's currently a hurricane watch in effect for Sebastian Inlet to Fernandina Beach in Nassau County. There's a tropical storm warning in effect for Chokoloskee in Collier County to Golden Beach, Florida Keys from 7 Mile Bridge eastward, and Florida Bay. This is a dangerous storm, and it is never too early to evacuate. If you live in a low-lying area, on a barrier island, or in an area prone to flooding, you need to consider making plans to leave now. Don't wait for a mandatory evacuation. That's when the roads are going to get clogged. It's going to be much harder to evacuate. Current evacuations include St. Johns County, mandatory evacuations at 6 a.m. tomorrow for barrier islands and low-lying areas. Duval County, voluntary evacuations have started for Jacksonville Beach, Atlantic Beach, and Neptune Beach. Brevard County, mandatory evacuations for barrier islands at 3 p.m. today. St. Lucie County, voluntary evacuations have already started. Flagler County, voluntary evacuations have already started. I have directed DOT to suspend tolls as needed to keep traffic flowing. If there is an evacuation order in a county, all tolls will be suspended in that county. Tolls on State Road 528 in Central Florida are being suspended right now. This road goes from Brevard County to Orlando. I've spoken to all 67 Florida counties and have stressed to them the importance of getting their evacuation plans ready now. The state stands ready with resources to help counties with safe sheltering and evacuation if any local communities need it. I expect to hear more this afternoon from coastal counties on their evacuation plans. Again, I expect to hear more this afternoon from our coastal counties on their evacuation plans. Our number one priority is people, protecting life. The storm has already killed multiple people, and we should expect the same impact in Florida if people do not take this seriously. If an evacuation order is issued for your area, leave immediately. Once the storm starts, we cannot put our first responders at risk to save your life. If you make a decision not to leave, we cannot send someone to save you because you made a bad decision. Let's remember this. If you made a decision not to leave, we cannot send someone to risk their life to save yours. You must leave before it's too late. In Hurricane Irene that we just had in the Panhandle, there was a lady that didn't evacuate at Panacea, and she waited until it was a mandatory evacuation. She waited until the water got to 1.5 feet. She stayed there for her pets. She would have died if she hadn't gotten out, and when she got out, she would also pass away if there hadn't been a high water vehicle close to her. We can rebuild a home, we can rebuild a business, we cannot rebuild your life. Follow the directions of your local officials. This is serious, and your safety depends on you being prepared and staying alert to all warnings and orders. Many coastal counties are preparing to open shelters today and tomorrow morning. There are shelters for people with special needs, pets, and the general population. There are shelters available for everyone. I encourage everyone to download the free American Red Cross Emergency app. It shows any open Red Cross shelter in real time. The Red Cross has 97 shelters scheduled to be open throughout Florida over the next 2 days. 97 shelters. There's absolutely no excuse not to evacuate. If you're on Florida's East Coast, you should know now where you will go if you have to evacuate. If you think there's any chance you're going to have to evacuate, don't wait until you lose power to figure out where you're going to go. If you're able to leave early and go now, do it before there's traffic. Don't take any risk. I urge you to visit floridadisaster.org. Here you can find your closest shelter as well as information on road closures. It is very important now that you know if you're going to have to evacuate, where you go. If you think you're going to need a shelter, where the shelter is. Don't wait. Now is the time to know both your shelter and your evacuation plan. You can check out the website, and you can check with your local officials, and you can check the local news. This can save your life. I've been in constant contact with the Army Corps of Engineers, speaking with both Colonel Kirk, who's responsible here in the state, and General Turner, his boss in Atlanta, about Lake Okeechobee. They are taking all precautions, but this time they believe, at this time, based on expectation of rainfall, they believe lake levels are low enough to handle the rain we expect in that area. There are school closures in the following counties. Brevard, closed Thursday and Friday. Broward, closed Thursday and Friday. Eastern Florida State College will be closed until Monday. Martin County, there will be early dismissal today. Schools closed Thursday and Friday. Indian River County, there will be early dismissal today. Schools closed Thursday and Friday. Okeechobee County, schools closed Thursday and Friday. Palm Beach County, closed Thursday and Friday. St. Lucie County, there will be early dismissal today. Schools closed Thursday and Friday. Florida School for the Deaf and Blind, closed today, Thursday, and Friday. Each county school board is responsible for school closings. I know they will continue to make decisions today. FAU and FIU, classes will be canceled beginning today at 5 p.m. and will remain canceled Thursday and Friday. UNF, classes will be canceled beginning today at 3 p.m. and will remain canceled Thursday and Friday. I have directed the state to deploy staff to every coastal county to help assist with recovery and response efforts. The state has water, food, and other life-saving materials stationed in North Florida, Central Florida, and South Florida. These resources will be available to be deployed to affected communities immediately. I've activated 500 National Guard members already. They're currently stationed in North, Central, and South Florida, so they can be deployed immediately. In addition, we have over 6,000 more National Guard members that can be deployed quickly. The National Guard will be focused on staging to perform search and rescue efforts and will be ready to assist our counties as they need it. With a storm of this magnitude, we are very concerned about prolonged power outages. The odds are we are going to lose power. We know that when there is power, there's no power, lives are at risk. I have stayed in constant contact with the utilities across the state, and I'm glad to hear yesterday that they have reported, many of our reports, they've already pre-positioned assets to ensure they can respond quickly. I just got off the phone with Florida Power and Light, and they, I think, are already moving in 7,000 more people. Once the storm hits, our utilities will also start reporting outage and restore information to the state. Our State Department of Transportation is currently doing the following. They've halted all of the road work projects on interstates and evacuation routes. They remove material that block roads to facilitate possible evacuations. They're very focused on making sure roads are safe and clear. They're ensuring that their fuel and road rangers are on Florida turnpikes, and they're preparing possible evacuation routes. For information on road and bridge closures, please check fl511.com. Florida Highway Patrol has made contact with local troops in preparation for support evacuations in the major corridors, south to north and east to west. Their top priority is to help move people to safety. Florida Department of Law Enforcement and Fish and Wildlife are also preparing to deploy troops to help with safe evacuations and response and recovery. Florida Fish and Wildlife has teams and equipment in place to help with search and rescue efforts. We did the exact same thing with Hurricane Irma. The state has been in contact with fuel industry partners, and at this time there are no reported supply, distribution, or retail fuel shortages. Now what we're seeing is that a few places a gas station will be out of fuel, but there's plenty of fuel in that area. All ports and airports remain open at this time. Cape Canaveral Hospital has begun evacuating. At this time, we're continuing to gather information on other possible hospital evacuations, and we'll keep you updated. We have 3 veterans nursing homes on the East Coast. All have generators and are preparing staff and supplies to care for their residents. State parks. Department of Environmental Protection has issued a partial closure for Sebastian Inlet State Park in Brevard County. There are no other park closures at this time. Visit Florida. They're working with local tourism officials to ensure visitors are kept informed and provide options in case of evacuations. If you're a visitor to our state in an area of Florida's East Coast, please evacuate before roads get clogged. Now's the time to check on your neighbors. You know the elderly, you know who has disabilities, you know who might need help. Go check on them now. Make sure you help them get to a shelter or get whatever they need to withstand this storm. We all have to work together to make sure we make it through this potentially catastrophic storm. Each individual in the state, 3 days of water, 3 days of food. Have any medicines that you need. Have a battery-powered radio and have batteries. Charge up your cell phone. Once you lose power, you cannot charge up your cell phone. If your cell phone might be the only way you're able to contact anybody or get information about what's going on around you. Again, if Matthew directly impacts Florida, the destruction could be catastrophic and every one of us has to be prepared. Again, we are preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and not taking any chances. Florida knows how to prepare, and everyone must take this seriously. We have a lot of people who moved to our state in the year since we've had a storm like this, so a lot of people don't know what to do. Follow your local officials. Watch the weather. Do not take any chances, and do not wait. Be ready now. Know your evacuation plan. If you think you need a shelter, know where you're going to go. Beat the traffic. We're all protecting and we're focused on protecting every life. Everybody has a family. We want every family to be intact. We will continue to provide updates on this life-threatening storm as it develops and approaches our state. If you live in an area that will not be impacted by the storm and want to volunteer to assist local communities, visit redcross.org. redcross.org. I will get my next briefing for the National Hurricane Center at 5:15, and we'll be heading to Brevard County now to meet with emergency management officials there. I will be in Duval County later today to also meet with emergency management officials there. I want to thank you, and I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Governor, I have a question for you about evacuations. I know that you had mentioned that there might be some more information forthcoming later today. How many Floridians potentially might be forced to evacuate? And could this potentially be one of the largest evacuations we've ever had in Florida history?
Yeah. When you look at this storm as it goes along the East Coast, we're going to have to prepare every county, so it could be the biggest evacuation ever. Every county, though, is focused on it. We've been working on it even before today, but every county is coming up with their plan. They're looking at storm surge, they're looking at the winds, they're looking at exactly where the storm is and when they have to make that decision. They're also working with the local law enforcement to make sure they're ready, but they're also working with highway safety, they're working with the DOT to make sure our evacuation plans are ready. But it could be the biggest one ever. Because if you look at it, it's unusual for something to just go right along our coast like this and not knowing when we're going to have a direct impact if we are.
I know past evacuations in Florida history, you've seen our roadways really get congested and clogged up. What steps or measures are being taken to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Well, first off, we're recommending if you think you're going to have to evacuate, do it now. Don't wait. We know if everybody waits till the last minute, they're going to get clogged. All right. So one, we're making sure our roads are clear now. We're making sure that we have a plan for every area. We're trying to get everybody informed of where they might evacuate, so that you can get on the website floridadisaster.org and find out. On top of that, we're making sure we have fuel locally. We are ready if we need to go have all of the turnpike go in one direction. We're ready to be able to do that. We have highway safety individuals from around the state that are ready to come into any area that needs more help. But I know we have great sheriff's department, police departments, and they, I can say people in a time of disaster, they work really well together. This county works really well together. This state works really well together. We have good emergency management teams around the state.
Governor, in this area here in St. Lucie County, there's certain parts along the Treasure Coast that flood very easily. What's being done to alleviate that? Have you guys sent out National Guard troops to maybe help with sandbagging areas?
Actually, in preparation of the storm, we've lowered tables. We've strategically placed large volume pumps to move water where necessary. So we are strategically, again, locating pumps, and we've lowered the tables here in St. Lucie.
And when you say relocating the water, where is this water going?
Well, that can be a challenge because if the tables are high to whatever flowing direction it's going to be, it creates a problem in moving that water. That's why we've taken the approach of lowering the water tables to allow us to move water in the wherever it's holding.
But where's the water going? You said you're moving water.
It just goes to whatever flow it will take to relieve and alleviate the flooding in those areas.
Could that potentially affect other counties or other areas around you?
With this type of storm, you don't know. I can't answer that. But we are taking measures to try to alleviate that problem.
But the state's wet already. I mean,
Yes.
Let me tell you, just think about this. The state's wet. This is a wet year. We already know. I mean, we started in January. It's been a wet year the whole year in the southern part of the state. But really, the whole state's pretty wet right now. We're going to get a lot of rain. And and if you look at history, there's going to be bands where we get more rain than what we anticipate. So 5 to 7 inches, they're saying now 5 to 7 inches, as much as 10. But the truth is, if you look at history, and on all these storms, we get bands where it just dumps rain. And so everybody's going to have to work together. The counties, water management districts, the Corps of Engineers, everybody's going to have to work together, because what happens in these disasters is that it's always different than what you anticipate, and so you've got to keep the communication open. That's why we have good communication between the counties and the county emergency management and the state, and we've got everybody there to be able to provide whatever resources are necessary. But the most important thing right now is every person's got to get ready.
Is there any particular part of the state that you're most concerned about in regards to flooding?
The whole East Coast is wet. It just depends on where we get dumped, where the water gets dumped. There's different areas. Like I was up in Nassau yesterday. That's a more low-lying area than some of the other parts of the state, and so that's probably where we have some more. The Berry Islands. I mean, I'm worried about them. We're going to get 3 to 6 foot of storm surge. In Ermine, we got as much as 10 foot of storm surge, and I mean it's pretty devastating. And the water goes in fast and out fast, and so if you can't be out there and dealing with it.
Any other questions? Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.